Hello everybody, T.D.F.M here yet again, back in the tub again, coming at you with another lore episode. Anyway, on this particular episode, I want to talk about living with PTSD and brain damage. Now, because of the shit I've gone through in my life, I do have PTSD from various different things. I also have, a couple severe brain injuries as well. Straight up classic traumatic brain injury that I got when I was 16, when I was nearly killed at Baker Hall School in Lackawanna, New York. And hypoxic brain damage at just barely 17 when I was suffocated for 20 or 30 minutes straight from severe and also untreated respiratory failure after a bunch of corrupt little man-child Amherst, New York police officers used excessive force against me, and then I socked one of them and completely dominated them at just barely 17, and they took me down and had me on my back on the floor, pinned down, and then dumped pepper spray all over my face and directly into my wide open and inhaling mouth and down my throat. My head flopped back while they had me pinned down on my back on the floor like that, and suffocated me for half an hour straight and nearly killed me, and also gave me even more severe brain damage due to, again, hypoxic brain damage. And also just growing up locked up in the system as well. You could argue that in itself was a very massive trauma because of the way that psychologically conditioned and made me. That shit made me aggressive, it made me violent. No different than someone going to prison would have to be violent to survive in that environment. It was the exact same concept with all these places that I was at during my adolescence. And now I live with that shit every day. But I do struggle with these things very much. Even my voice, when I kind of slur my speech sometimes or stumble over my words, or that's probably a symptom of the brain injuries, both the straight up just traumatic and also hypoxic brain injuries. I struggle with things like intrusive thoughts constantly and memories racing around my head pretty much every day. You can actually find some examples of this in some of the videos I've already posted. A while ago I posted a video biking in New York City, Central Park GoPro. That video is on this channel still, so you should probably go watch it to know what I'm talking about. But at the end of that particular video, I started to go on like a rant, okay? And the reason why I was ranting like that is because I knew I had the camera on my head, and I thought, well, if I'm going to have these intrusive thoughts and intrusive ranty thoughts in my mind, I might as well say them out loud, because I know that the camera will at least hear them, and maybe other people can actually hear what I'm saying. So that's why I went on that rant. And that rant was in reference to, me having intrusive thoughts about me being suffocated for half an hour when I was just barely 17. That's why I called them, stupid, incompetent man-children. That's what you guys are, idiots. I'm not talking to my standard audience, just certain people, in reference to the fact that, I know they might be looking at that shit too. So I was talking to potentially them. Another instance of this is also from New York City, when I'm straddling, on that piece of wood that went out into the ocean on Coney Island. At one point in that video, I said to myself, under my breath, oh, fucking faggot. And I pointed at my dad and said, oh, not him, somebody else. In that moment, what that was in reference to was my intrusive thoughts about, nearly getting killed by some scumbag individual, some punk-ass, coward, scumbag, scum of the earth individual at Baker Hall School when I was 16 years old. So that's who I was talking about. That's what I said, in Vega to. But I said not him being my father, someone else, and that's what I was talking about in that moment. So now you know. Even when I make these videos, some of these videos are really actually hard for me to make because I am so constantly distressed to the point where it is hard for me to make videos, or even harder types of videos like, the funny videos I made, like the donkey videos or whatever. Those videos are kind of hard to make, not only because of the extended work to produce those specific types of videos, but the fact that I was distressed as usual, and it was difficult for me to make that shit. But I did it anyway because it was something I wanted to do. Even in lots of my videos, you can hear me take big inhales and exhales constantly. Like that. I do that very often. Or at least sometimes I do. The main reason why I do that is because you never be able to tell through the lens of the camera. But again, it's that constant psychological distress because of things like intrusive thoughts racing around my mind from all my horrible life events that have happened to me, playing out in my head over and over, that I pretty much go through all day, every day, and have for years at this point, and presumably will for the rest of my life. That's why I take those big inhales and exhales, is because I'm trying to alleviate that distress as much as possible. Another good example of this is that one video from November 8th of 2024, when I was biking in that cemetery with my father, and we stopped at my mother's grave and my grandmother's grave on my mother's side for a little while. In that video, I was taking lots of those big inhales and exhales because I was very distressed in that in particular video, which kind of sucks too, because aesthetically that was a pretty video, but for me personally, I was very distressed, unfortunately, while filming that video. And nearing the end of that particular video, I also said out loud to the camera on my chest, same as usual. I said out loud near the end of that video. And what that was in reference to was, same as usual, being the constant psychological stress that I'm constantly in pretty much all day, every day. That's what I was referring to in that moment when I said it out loud to the camera. Same as usual. Like I am distressed, but I usually am. So it's really nothing even really special or abnormal to me at this point. And yeah, there's some more for you. Back here in the tub yet again. Got the bling bling. Something else I got right now is this coin, which is a Walking Liberty $50. I gave this coin to my father a while ago. It's 90% silver $50. It's from the year 1917. I gave this coin to him a while ago because I collected coins, so I had a bunch of these, so I gave him one. And he was here recently, and then he left the house. He's not here right now because something occurred here. And when he left this coin behind. So it's kind of funny to think that, in the end, this coin pretty much came back to me in the end. Because I gave this to him like years ago. Now it's come back to me. So, yeah. Did I say today's date? I'm not even sure, but yeah, today's date is Thursday, April 23rd of 2026 at currently 5:01 a.m. And something else about, something else about. Maybe another time. Had a picture I was thinking about showing you, but maybe another time.